All right, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? How is it going? I am Is There No One Else? And the video I'm bringing you today, I wanted to talk to you guys about the meta that we're in, the meta that we were in. Wanted to talk to you guys about the poll that I did on my channel, and just basically kind of talk about what I hope to see from, you know, ESO PvP in the future, because yeah, this last patch has been rather polarizing, and I wanted to talk about all of it, and that's what this video is going to be. And so yeah, let's just dive into it, because we're going to kind of bounce all over the place. Number one, I did a poll on my channel asking what people preferred more, just from a fun perspective. What was more enjoyable, this current patch, Flames of Ambition, or the last patch, which was Markarth? And overwhelmingly, I'll post the poll on the channel or on the video now. Overwhelmingly, people enjoyed this patch, or enjoying this patch more than last patch. Now, I will say, guys, that there is some inherited bias in this type of poll, because obviously I don't like, you know, I don't like procs. I've talked about how I don't like procs. People that agree with me will watch my channel more than people that disagree with me. People that enjoy my stuff, you know, so there is some bias there. But if you couple this poll with the fact that ZeniMax randomly came out and they just did this change due to people saying overwhelmingly that they enjoy this type of patch more, I think it kind of lends credence to the fact that this is probably true. You know, maybe it's not as severe as what this poll is saying, but I think people overall like this current patch more than last patch. And the reason that is because it was a proc dot patch. Procs were very, very effective. We don't need to go into it much anymore, but proc dots are very similar to normal dots. And if we go back to Scalebreaker from 2 years ago, which was the dot meta with Soul Trap and Entropy, people hated that patch. Everybody, PvEers, PvPers, and it came out and people didn't like PvEers didn't like that patch because of how simplistic the rotation was. Every single class had the exact same rotation. Yeah, DPS was balanced, but no class was unique. Everything was homogenized and it was boring from a PvE perspective. Plus the damage was way too high. It was too easy to complete content, and so PvEers didn't like it for that reason also. PvPers didn't like it because it was undodgeable dot damage that you just got. If you ran across enough people that were running those two dots, like, there was literally nothing you could do about it. You couldn't dodge incoming damage or anything like that. It was mostly Soul Trap and Entropy. Like, class dots weren't really an issue, but those two things just created a very severe problem. And so it's no surprise that when people didn't like a dot meta, all of a sudden we have a proc dot meta and people don't like that too. I mean, I know it's shocking that those two things are kind of similar and people didn't actually like it. And so I hope that in the next patch, when they balance these things, they keep this in mind. They keep in mind that unavoidable damage in PvP, or damage in PvP without any real good counters, is not a good thing. People enjoy being able to react, and it's not just quote unquote good players or more experienced players. Bad players don't, or inexperienced players, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it was bad, but I meant it as an inexperienced. Inexperienced players don't like it either. Imagine hopping into PvP for the first time and you run across me and I'm running the Vadishran's Frost Staff, I'm running the BRP Destro, I'm running Zon, and then whatever 5-piece like Icy Conjurer on the body. I could just literally hit an Ellie Drain proc the BRP staff, and with 2 abilities I'm going to have 4 different procs on you and you're not going to be able to react. Now, yes, I would, because I'm more experienced, I have an advantage over an inexperienced player, but that's also just a ridiculous gear advantage, and there's not much you can do about it when you encounter those sorts of things. And so having people do their own damage for them is a good thing. And I know this is a revolutionary thought, but people actually enjoy that. I have no like, this patch I'm enjoying a lot more. It doesn't mean that it's perfect. We've talked about this a lot. I'm going to be, you know, having less sets isn't a good thing. Having less sets isn't a good thing. The lack of bombers in PvP means that Zergs are running around more free. The cross healing is ridiculous. I don't know why it exists. I really don't. I don't know why we brought this back. It was better without cross healing, but cross healing promotes people to travel in larger and larger groups, and we actually have, I would say on Xbox, the groups are the same size, but the problem is there's no counters. There's no bombers running around nuking these players like there was last patch to kind of keep them at bay. So the addition of the cross healing plus the lack of the bombers makes groups stronger. But with that being said, I don't care personally if I get zerged down by 40 people, because I'm going to die to 40 people regardless. What I don't like is when I run over a hill and I run across 20 or 30 people and I die running around a corner trying to keep my heals up because 3 different people procced 5 different procs on me. Like, that's not enjoyable for me. That's not enjoyable for a lot of people. A lot of people have commented on my channel saying the exact same thing. And so having more, there's nothing wrong with proc sets, proc damage. Well, I mean, that's contentious, but proc damage sets shouldn't be as strong as they were. That's why, you know, they're removed from Cyrodiil right now. So we're going to segue this just a little bit, but the issue with this, with these sets, the issue with other metas in the past is that they get stale and they get boring. And the problem, and the reason that is it doesn't matter what meta it was. If you go back, if you've been playing for a while, or if you haven't, a couple years ago, Fury and New Moon was best in slot for all stamina classes. I've talked about this quite a bit, but it was by far best in slot. As long as you weren't a Nightblade, Fury and New Moon was the best 5-piece sets you could run, and everybody was running it because it was the best and it wasn't close. And I've had a Discord up for a couple of years now. I had people at that point in time like, hey guys, I'm trying to get off of Fury and New Moon. I want to run something else. I want to play something else. What can I run? And people would go, hey, don't do it. Everything else is so much worse. You're just going to be frustrated. And so people get bored of a patch because it's always the same meta stuff. And now there's nothing wrong with the meta being powerful. You know, with, like, there's always going to be certain stuff that's a little bit stronger. But the problem is when stuff is so much stronger, it makes other stuff obsolete or non-competitive in any way, shape, or form. And that's the biggest issue, is with all these different metas, whether it's stat-based, whether it's proc-based, whatever, we all get shoehorned into the same sets and gear, and we get shoehorned into the same skills and abilities, and we end up running the same stuff, and we get bored because if we switch to anything else, there's nothing creative or fun about it. And so everybody says, oh, new metas are refreshing, new metas are refreshing. And that is true, because the metas are so powerful in ESO that only a few of these things are actually really viable. Now, what I've always proposed on my channel is you try to balance things out a little bit more. If you make more sets viable, if you make more skills viable, if you make more things competitive, yes, there will be stuff that's strong, but if you get bored running the strongest stuff and you can adjust to gear that's only a little bit less powerful, if you're still competitive but it's new and fun for you, you're happy. You know, like, you don't have to run strict meta just to compete and survive. You can actually play different classes, you can play different things, and you're like, yeah, you know, I know this isn't as strong as this, but it's competitive enough and I'm having fun doing it, and I just got tired, I want to play something else. That's also another way to keep patches refreshing, is having these options and having this variety. Now, a lot of, I'm going to tie this into Markarth and this current patch also, but a lot of people said in Markarth, you know, the gear variety was fantastic. There was a lot of different gear we could choose from, and now there's not much gear. Well, there's different forms of variety and diversity. There's diversity via gear sets, and there's diversity being via classes. And so in Markarth, yes, there was a lot more gear available to us. Most people were shoehorned into running procs plus Malakath. Just about everybody was running Malakath because, duh, like, why weren't you going to run Malakath? But there was only a few sets. Like, if you're a Magicka class, you're running Magicka procs. If you're a Stamina class, you're running Stamina procs plus Malakath. So it's not like a lot of the procs were balanced, and so there was a little bit more gear diversity. They were balanced around each other. And so there was a lot more gear diversity in that regard, but it was still the same stuff. Okay, well, I'm going to run a proc that procs off of crit rush. Okay, I'm going to run a proc that procs off of crit damage. I'm going to run a proc that procs off of me doing spin to win or an execute. Like, it was just always proc off of something. And so I don't really consider that very diverse, to be honest. But yeah, you can say that there was more sets at that point in time. Now, this patch, there's not as many sets. We know this. There's not as many choices of sets. However, classes are a lot more competitive right now. All classes are competitive. I've seen screenshots of 20k spec bows for Magicka Nightblades. Now, you guys know I like Magicka Nightblade. Magicka Nightblade outside of a bomber wasn't really a thing in Markarth. it still has its issues, but because they up damage, you can actually kill people on a Magicka Nightblade. My buddy Zdan just posted melee Magicka Nightblade 1vx yesterday, from when I'm recording this now. He just posted it yesterday. That hasn't been a thing for a long time. And it's obviously, you know, obviously other stuff's more viable, but it's cool knowing, like, holy crap, I can actually play melee Magicka Nightblade, and if I play it well, I can 1vx, because that wasn't a thing last patch. Dots were way too powerful. There was too much free damage. It just couldn't exist. And so you have diversity via skill sets, but you also have diversity via classes. And so not everybody this patch is on a 50k health warden or werewolf running a bunch of procs. People are playing a bunch of different classes. Now, obviously, guys, obviously some classes are better. We need to make some adjustments in that regard, but because damage is so much higher, everybody can kill people. I had a lot of fun on my Magicka Templar playing solo and playing in a duo with it, because it was actually more competitive because I had damage. Last patch on a Magicka Templar, unless I was running procs, I did not have damage. I could not kill people because people had way too much health, they had way too much damage mitigation, they had way too much free damage, and it was just frustrating to run no procs against them. And so I was stuck running procs in order to be competitive. And so let's not lose sight of what the good parts of this patch. Like, even if you guys disagree with me that you want more sets, and I agree, I want more sets too, guys. Like, I post build videos. Do you really want to see me post the same build video running the same sets across all the different classes? Of course not. Of course not. Of course I want more sets. But we have to also acknowledge that in this patch, variety among different classes also exists. So for as good or for as better, although Markarth was better for more gear diversity, Flames of Ambition is better for more class diversity. And so although people were running slightly different gear sets in Markarth, people are running different classes in Flames of Ambition. And so the diversity is still out there. Yes, we're all running the same sets. I mean, we all know this. Oh, I'm Magicka, so I'm running Spinners. I'm Stamina, so I'm running Spriggans, plus whatever I want to fit on the other 5Bs. Of course. But it's only going to exist for another couple months, and hopefully we can combine the best of both of these things. Hopefully in the next patch, we can go, hey, we have more gear diversity, but also damage is at a point to where we have more class diversity. And we can combine those two things, and we can balance some more things out to provide more sets for everybody, so that we're all not shoehorned into a specific meta with specific gear sets. Like the video I posted yesterday, where I was talking about fleshing out classes. This is also fleshing out gear. Balancing out gear, making gear unique and different to where not everything is so much stronger than everything else. Where, like, Markarth is so good that you have to run it. It would be nice if Markarth was strong, but if Markarth wasn't the clear-cut best option, then you could choose other mythics. Maybe you go to Snow Treaders, maybe you go to this, maybe you go to this. Those things are nice too. And so being able to have other mythics available to you, because there's a bunch of mythics out there and only one is really the clear-cut best and by far in PvP. If you're not running, like in Markarth, if you were running Markarth, you were probably wrong outside of like Stamina Nightblade. But even Stamina Nightblade, if you're running procs, you were right. so yeah, I know I'm kind of on a tangent here, but the point is we need to start looking at stuff that's really strong, and we need to start looking at stuff that's really weak, and we need to put a cap on the really strong stuff, and we need to bring up the really weak stuff. And that's talking about class skills, that's talking about gear sets, and just bring it more into line so that when a meta does shift, which it will, we're bringing in new gear sets all the time, it doesn't shift so drastically that some classes are left out in the cold. It doesn't shift so drastically that, yeah, you know, this new gear is the best gear, but at least if you get bored of that gear, you can run something else and you can be more competitive. It's not clear cut like, if you run this, you die. If you run this, you succeed. So that's the goal, guys. Obviously, there's not going to be perfect balance, but we can make a huge difference from saying like, hey, this gear combination is 20% better than this. How about we make it 2% better, 3% better? If we do that, people will still flock to it, but other stuff will be viable, so that if you get bored running Sword and Board 2H, you can run something else, or you can run a different class, or you can go hop on Melee Magblade, or you can go hop on a Mag Sork, or you can go hop on a War. It doesn't matter. Options are good. Choices are good. Variety is good. I know this is groundbreaking. So yeah, that's gonna be the end of this video. If you guys have any questions or comments about this, please provide in the section below. Hopefully I explained my point of view. Hopefully I kind of talked about Markarth and Flames of Ambition in a good way and talked about what I would like to see. But yeah, if I didn't explain something well, let me know. Thank you for watching, guys. Have a nice day.